Feliz mes de la Herencia, Hispana. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Welcome back, people. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Indeed. Feliz mes de la Herencia, Hispana. It's a great to be with you. Great time to be with you today. September 15th marked the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. This is Let's Chew the Gum, the podcast where we talk about everything from A to Z. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Let's Chew the Gum. I'm your host, ProTKAll. We talk a lot of things in this show. While we chew the gum, and just like every show, we always have
something for your mind. Something for your mind. Something for your mind.
정신을 집어넣으세요. 어떤 것 필요합니까?
Something for your
정신을 집어넣으세요.
mind.
정신을 집어넣으세요.
Something for your
All right. Thank you for joining me this week for Let's Chew the Gum, the podcast where we talk about everything from A to Z while we chew the gum. And I'm very excited to kick off this next series of shows dedicated to Hispanic Heritage Month. This is a great time. Although it's Hispanic Heritage Month, whether you identify Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, a mí no importa. The fact of the matter is it's a celebration for all people, and even outside of those communities. I consider it a worldwide celebration because there's so many people that make up the Hispanic experience, right? We're talking about Native Americans in Central and South America that were here long before any of those Spaniards came out. I didn't want to name the one who claimed he discovered it, but long before. It's about African culture, the mestizo culture. So there's so much that we all can find in celebration this month. And that's maybe why I played the song Danza Kuduro, because that song is not necessarily Spanish. There's some Spanish in there. There's some Portuguese, but the Portuguese is not really Portuguese because it's influenced by, the country of Angola, which was at one point a colony of Portugal. So there's that whole mixture, which is what this month is all about for me. So again, excited to be here. Today, as I'm recording this, kicks off Hispanic Heritage Month, as I said. And then the next day after September 16th, 16 Day, Septiembre Day, is Mexican Independence Day. So I just thought that this would be a great show to kick off with just a little bit of background about the month, the celebration, month-long celebration, and some of the questions that I've received from students, colleagues of mine who are in the teaching profession, to dispel some misconceptions, and then over the next few weeks to bring on some special guests that are representative of the culture. So first off, September 16th, September 15th actually is the day that starts it. Folks were asking, well, why does it start in the middle of the month? Why does it start September 15th and October 15th? I even had one teacher joke with me about it being a half and half celebration. I didn't get it at first. I didn't know if he meant that he was racially mixed, but what he was saying was it's half of September, half of October. And so we talked a minute, and I was explaining that the reason that it starts is in the middle of the month is because in the 1800s, 1821 to be exact, several countries in Central America proclaimed their independence from Spain on September 15th, right? Followed closely by Mexico, which was September 16th. So if you would look at the Central American countries and look at the dates of their independence, they all fall in succession, starting with September 15th, 16th, et cetera, on down the line. Even so much as Belize, which was formerly British Honduras. Now, they didn't get their independence until, I believe, 1981, but it was on September the 21st. So this is the reason that it's celebrated beginning in the mid portion of September through October 15th. So there's that. Some other misconceptions. Some folks thought that Hispanic Heritage Month was all about Mexican Independence Day, which is September 16th. But it's not just about Mexico. Again, it's about all of the countries that had been formerly under the influence of Spain, all of those countries that declared their independence from Spain, and even some folks in Spain celebrated. It's also celebrated in parts of the Philippines, some folks in the Philippines, because they were a territory of Spain. Can we throw Guam into that mix? Check it out and see, do some research. But it's really about the celebration of the contributions of the individuals from these cultures that have been brought to light. And so that's what it's about. Incidentally, it started as a week-long celebration. I believe in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost sure. 1968, a politician by the name of George Brown, who was a representative in California, excuse me, in 1968, sponsored this bill. So he represented East LA. That's interesting also because when you think about that, that's the height of the civil rights movement. And 1968 has a particular significance for East Los Angeles and then the rest of the country. That was the same year that they had the East LA blowouts, or some folks call them the walkouts. Shout out to all of those students who were a part of that, all of those leaders who are still students who are now leaders today, whether it's in education or social work or nursing. I appreciate all of you. There's a great movie made about that event, or that series of events, called Walkout. And it highlights the life of one of my mentors. Rest in peace to Sal Castro. Man, what a great guy. So that happened in 1968, where Mexican American students in 5 East Los Angeles schools, let me see if I can get them right. Let's see, that would be Lincoln, Garfield, Roosevelt, Roosevelt. I'm missing 2 right now. Maybe I'll put myself on the spot. I'll get them for you. Man, I want to sit here and think. Lincoln, Garfield, Roosevelt, Wilson, and one more. I want to say Taft, maybe not. Anyway, these 5 East Los Angeles schools, students in these schools had decided that they were really fed up with being treated as second-class citizens, if that good. And they decided that they would bring it to the attention of the educators, of the leaders, educational leaders, the principals and school boards, about the way they have been treated, being locked out of bathrooms at lunchtime, not having food that was representative of their culture, not being allowed to speak Spanish in schools. And if they did, they would have corporal punishment. There was so much more. And so a few students stepped up that I'm just at a loss for words, because it was honorable to see student leaders come together, led by Sal Castro, or influenced or supported by Sal Castro, a teacher there who frequently took students on weekend getaways to places like Malibu and to college fairs at UCLA to have them exposed to life outside. And it was on one of those trips that few students that a few students became aware that, as one student said, their schools are the back of the bus. I think they were visiting Palisades High School, which had an immaculate campus and a vast library. So that inspired them to have changes in their schools, and the result of which were these walkouts where students just began to walk out. They were harassed and beaten by police on one day, but they were resolved to see this action through, and they came back again, and pretty soon parents and grandparents, came and supported, and it got the attention of school board members, Dr. Nava, who's played by Edward James Olmos in the movie, and a few others. And it also resulted in some arrests. The East LA 13, you can look that up, where some of these leaders were arrested and charged with a conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor for getting students to walk out of school. And that was a pretty serious charge. I think it carried something like 66 years if they were convicted. Eventually, they were exonerated and they were released. But it was a great time. You had lots of people that supported that movement. Some of the results were a massive increase in the amount of Chicano students that were enrolling at UCLA and other UCs, and these blowouts spread across the country. So it was a great example of democracy, right? A great example of democracy. So anyway, it's to me maybe not coincidental that George Brown, who represented East LA, would sponsor a bill like this. And I don't know George Brown, nor have I researched his motives to know that if he did this like all politicians, they want to stay in office, but I don't know if it was something that was from his heart or was it a political move. Nevertheless, this became Public Law 9048, which recognized it as Hispanic Heritage Week, and it was proclaimed each year under several presidents. Lyndon Baines Johnson was the first, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan eventually signs it into a law after another representative submitted a bill to have it recognized for a month to give time to honor the contributions of so many people, right? A week definitely is not long enough to do that. So it became a full month under Reagan, and first observed under Reagan's successor, George Herbert Walker Bush. And so it's been commemorated each year since. So that's a great thing. As I said at the outset, for me, it's important to recognize it as a world holiday because, again, there's so many peoples and cultures and languages and ethnicities that make up the Hispanic culture. Various European countries, particularly Spain, right? But again, there are so many others. You can see it in the people, right? You may know a few Canelos here and there. You may see some Chinos here and there. You definitely will see Africanos, right? You hear it in the music and the drums. So there's contributions from all. You see it in the foods from the Native Americans, right? That existed, right? Or that still exists. Excuse me. That's a big misnomer. Native Americans haven't gone anywhere. We're still here. So it's a great time. So if you're listening, if you're an educator, please, honor this time, honor your students, whether they're Hispanic or not, to be able to know this history, this culture, this celebration that's so important because of the contributions that were made and are continually made to not only these countries in Central and South America, but the United States, Canada, around the world. It's a worldwide celebration. All right. Yes, indeed. So I got an email, and not just an email. I frequently get questions when I'm teaching history about Cinco de Mayo, right? Lots of folks still think that Cinco de Mayo is Mexican Independence Day because it's so commercialized. It's big celebrations that we have, probably the result of, some great marketing by couple of beer companies. I don't know. But Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. Cinco de Mayo is a celebration, which I don't even think it's celebrated as such in Mexico, but a recognition of the Mexican army's defeat of the French army at Puebla, a town in Mexico. And what that had to do with was Mexico had suspended payments to 3 European powers that had claims to, well, we would say Mexican territory or resources, right? That would be England, Spain, and France. And I guess that wasn't a good thing for those countries, but agreements were made with England and Spain, but the French didn't like that, so they decided to invade, and they were going to invade Mexico City. And as they marched towards Mexico City, they encountered resistance along the way, and in particular the town of Puebla, where a Mexican army, not as well trained, probably not as big and resourced as the French, defeated them. And that is Cinco de Mayo. I wonder if the French were taking a similar route to Cortez, who was acknowledged as the first conquistador Spaniard to come into Mexico, where they first set up camp at Veracruz, or the place of the cross, and then marched towards Mexico City with the help of his interpreter, Malinali La Malinche, who gave Cortez secrets about natives and helped him to translate, to gain some allies to try to topple the Aztecs. Anyway, so there's Mexican Independence. Cinco de Mayo dispelled. We've dispelled the rumor or the misnotion that it is Mexican Independence Day. Again, Mexican Independence Day is September 16th, 1821, when they were finally able to declare themselves independent of Spain. All right. So, very interesting. I'd love to see, I'm definitely going to be watching and looking for various celebrations from different cultures, whether it's some of the original 5 countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, others, Chile, Belize. I'd like to see those various celebrations, and you should too. Check them out and tell me the influences that you see. Do you see the influences of Africa? Do you see the influences of Spain and other European countries? And do you definitely see the indigenous influence that's so prevalent within and still within those cultures? I could be mistaken, but I believe in many of those countries, the indigenous languages are still the most popular language spoken, or the language that are spoken by the majority of the people. Pretty interesting, pretty good history. So yes, Mexican Independence Day is not Cinco de Mayo. Hispanic Heritage Month is about more than Mexico. It's about the entire world of Hispania. And I said include the Philippines, include Guamanians and Guam, include any country that was formerly under the influence, militarily or politically under the influence of Spain. All right. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back with a little bit more. If you have access to Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, then be sure to check out On Watch TV, now streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. You'll find a variety of shows, from comedies to movies to drama to lifestyle, all types. But right now, especially a celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. Check it out. definitely check out the On Watch TV app on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. If you like what you hear on this show on a weekly basis, if you've enjoyed it for the past 3 seasons, you're bound to enjoy the On Watch TV, my latest venture onto television. A lot of fine content creators making contributions to the channel, and there are so much more to that are coming on, so much more to be added. Content in the making all the time, including some Spanish language content and content that is focused on Hispanic Latinx culture. So that should be pretty exciting. Again, this is Let's Chew the Gum, the podcast where we talk about everything from A to Z while we chew the gum. And today we've been talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, a little bit of the background of it, where it came from, how it came to be, some folks that were responsible for its happening, and dispelled a few rumors too about what it is and what it isn't, and the fact that it is an inclusive celebration. I want to talk briefly, and I'm so excited to bring on the guest next week, but I want to just talk briefly to those out there in the field of education, whether it's K-12 or higher ed. It's important that we continue to be inclusive when it comes to the existence and contribution of various cultures. We are a whole people, although we may have some differences. We are a whole people, and the whole story needs to be told. And I say this because I've noticed a lot of not necessarily indifference, but just a lack of knowledge just around this particular topic, Hispanic Heritage Month, where some schools and whatnot or districts are not, I don't want to say they aren't recognizing it, but they have not made affirmative actions to recognize it. Maybe a teacher here, a teacher there, but this is of such an importance, and particularly here in the southwestern United States, where, for the most part, we can acknowledge that this is, aside from a war that was fought probably illegally, Mexico. And so the cultures here, the influence of not only Mexico, but other countries that are south of the U.S. border is here. And those students and those families are in the communities. And it is up to us as educators, in my opinion, to be inclusive, to acknowledge the lived existence of our students, their funds of knowledge, their contributions. So that's important. So educate yourself. I shared quite a few resources with some fellow educators. I'll put them in the description of this podcast as well. And there's just a few. By all means, please do your own research. I could sit and talk for days about history of Southwestern Indian history, which would include all of Southwest United States, all of Southwestern United States, Mexico, and countries to the south. I could just do that all day. It's a very interesting topic and one that I'm quite familiar with. But please do your part, whether you're in education or in any professional field. Acknowledgement is key. All right. I'm not going to tell you the guests that I have lined up for this month, but there'll be some great guests nevertheless, some great topics surrounding Hispanic Heritage Month, and what that means, what it entails. Okay. In the meantime, I hope that all of you take care of yourselves. I hope that you engage. Look for some of those celebrations. Attend some celebrations around this historic month. It's an enjoyable time. I know lots of you are back out and anxious to find things to do, but this is a great time to explore, whether it's through a local library, museum. You can check with your local Hispanic chambers of commerce, schools, colleges. Lots of television channels are broadcasting content based upon this celebration, including my own channel, On Watch TV. There's a few things up for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I plan to have a few more. So indulge yourself. By all means, be safe, be safe, be safe. Okay. And I will talk to you next week. In the meantime, also feel free to send your emails, and I love getting those emails. The email address is letschewthegum@gmail.com. Feel free to send questions, comments, show topics, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, I'd like to have you as well. You'll be welcome to it, and we'll see you then. Please remember, we always have
Something for your